Hi, my name is Veronica, and I am speaking about a subject today that can be a little bit crunchy, a little bit tight, a little bit scary for some of us. And it can also be very exciting, the thing that we are looking for, the thing that we want to somehow align with in our lives. And that subject is money. And what's a little tricky for me is that there's a resistance in me to specifically speak on this subject for a couple of reasons. One of which is that I don't ever pretend to know anything or to be a guru of any kind. I simply bring forth that which comes to me in inspirations and meditations. And this morning, of course, while I was waking up, I spent some time in meditation, and then this whole picture started to unfold. So here we go. Oh, there was another reason. The other reason was my own resistance. My own resistance in terms of it's as if you have to be an authority on something, say money, if you actually have plenty of it. Here's how I've gotten there, and here's how you can do it. Well, I haven't achieved enlightenment, and yet I bring forth information with love and with integrity about our process. I haven't achieved perfection, and yet this is what I strive to hold space for in me and for everyone else, knowing that we are truly perfect. And I haven't achieved this huge manifestation of money, and yet I bring forth this information with integrity. I will begin by saying that I was raised in a metaphysical environment, which meant that while I was growing up, I had to really look at the deeper issues of things. So, for example, if I was sick, I might have to look at the reasons I was sick. But I also was taught how to shift things. In terms of dreaming, I was taught how to lucid dream, to go into the dream and make some changes. At a very young age, I learned how to manifest, and I learned how to manifest very well. In fact, specifically, I remember writing down this perfect, husband or this perfect guy kind of thing. And I wrote that out when I was 17, way back when, in the 80s. And in doing so, a few years later, I met the man who is now my husband. And we've been together for 26 years, and they haven't been perfect years. In fact, 6 years were very hard, and we didn't even live together, and yet our marriage is really a place of integrity and heart opening for both of us. So in terms of money, I have believed all my life that there was this abundance ability in me, that I would be able to bring forth that which would have me feel prosperous, me feel abundant. And over the course of the many years, I've been able to manifest a lot of amazing things. And yet what often seems to be sort of that mercury, that you can't quite get your finger on in my life can often be specifically physical, in my hand, in my checkbook, in my world, the accounting world itself, financial, actual money. In fact, just a few years ago, and I do have 4 children, I will say, and after the collapse of my marriage, where my husband really had some huge obstacles in his own life, we lost basically everything, and we're starting from scratch. Anyway, so just a few years ago, raising 4 children, my husband and I together, and I have not said this publicly, I've told this to just a few people who I felt safe with, we made $9,000. $9,000 for the entire year. Some people make that in, a month. Some people can make that no problem in their sleep, right? And so here our family was able to survive somehow. And I will tell you, we have absolutely no assets. We have basically just us, our beautiful children, and what we believe in our hearts. So that was trying, and at the same time, it is absolutely miraculous, let's say. Of course, we had support in many different ways, and so I won't completely say that we did it ourselves by any means. In fact, it was a community that really supported us in many ways, whether it be family or friends or all kinds of means. In that, I have spent many years really contemplating, really being with this energy of money in and of itself. And what's a little bit tricky is that when we are in these places where money may not necessarily come to us very easily, it can be very hard to not take that personally on lots of levels. So what I want to offer you, and of course I've done, hundreds and hundreds of readings over the past several years. I've been doing Akashic readings for 8 years or so. And when this issue comes up for people, what I see are very clear patterns. And the patterns aren't about they're doing something wrong, shame on them. It's really about their makeup. For a moment, I just want to bring us to this picture of children, let's say, who are born with ADD or with any other, issues, let's say. Each of us has come in with a particular signature, let's say. We have our physical bodies, we have our emotional bodies, we have all of these parts and pieces that make us up. And yet some of those things can be shifted. The more subtle the body, the more easily shifted they are. The physical pieces, the more dense energies, of course, are much harder to shapeshift. So, for example, if you are born with a birth defect and don't have a hand, it's really hard to suddenly manifest fingers. Does that mean something's wrong with that person? Does that mean that they have some kind of issue or some kind of egoic pattern? Let's say they have a child who's born with ADHD or ADD and really have a different view and a different sense in the world. Is there something so-called wrong? Is this something they need to overcome? Diabetes. A lot of children are born with diabetes. Is it something that they've done? Is it something that their parents have done? We can go into this picture of where we try to point the finger and blame, or at least say, here's the reason. And then we can also look at maybe how this person can overcome it or do the best that they can within those confines. What I have seen with people who have these energy patterns around money is that we too, let's say, have come in a certain way. The pattern I've seen is that we have chosen at this time to incarnate when the world is shifting. It is shifting, as you know, greatly. And we are really trying to change systems that don't serve all of us. So for a moment, I'll take a look at the children who are being born, say, with ADHD or ADD. Now, those are the typical verbs and words and nouns that are used to identify these children. They have this issue. There's a condition, etc. And yet, we have, people like Doreen Virtue who are writing books about the crystal children, or, there are books about indigo children, and they talk about these as children who are very awake and very open and almost able to see in a multi-dimensional way. In order to be in this world, to bring in the new energies, they're bringing them in through a totally different way of being. Many of the people that I work with that are extremely high vibration have specific issues around a lot of issues, just like all of us do, whether it be relationships, whether it be health, whether it be money. But let's just, because this offering is specifically around money, let's just look at this for a minute. The pattern that I see is that we too often have come in very different. We have come in very pure and very clear about bringing love consciousness through ourselves into the world. And the system of money isn't a system that often we A, understand, B, can relate to on a soul level, or C, really want to participate in terms of the system. Specifically, I live in the middle of nowhere. I live almost off the grid, not literally, but almost off the grid. I don't have a television. I don't really buy into, I don't even remember when I've gone shopping lately, but I'm saying that that's not really my reality. It's not my world. Part of it, again, is it doesn't resonate with me, and part of it is I simply don't want to be part of that. Now, with money, it's a little bit tricky. If you are to be in the world, there is this expectation that you have to have money to support yourself, to support your family, to thrive, to survive. And at the same time, in order to do so, we have a very specific means to do this. We have rules and regulations and patterns that are very hard and conforming. They help us conform to a system that may not fit for us. So I want to take a look at artists for a moment. What I see with people who are artistic and more creative, maybe they are heart-centered or maybe they are hand-centered, they're crafty, etc. They bring a lot of work through their hands, whether it be fixing a car, fixing a home, etc. Those are the jobs we often pay less for. Is that right? The jobs that are, let's say, more intelligent based, more intellectually based, the ones that you can sit at a desk and work in meetings and deal with. Here's the funny part. I have a hard time even understanding what the intellectual people do. But anyway, the ones who are very valued in our intellectual capacities are the ones we often pay the most. Now, of course, we have the exceptions. We have the famous athletes, and we have the artists who are actors, and the really famous artists, let's say, who make lots of money. Okay, so we do have those, but those are much harder to achieve. So what's really tricky for those ordinary people, which most of us fall into, is how do we thrive? Now, in my sessions with people, I will often see this heart's desire for them to truly do what is right for them, what is making their heart sing. What I also see is by doing that, by bringing your gifts forth, by being authentically you, that in and of itself will create joy, harmony, expansion, enlightenment, and also it will bring forth this means to support ourselves. However, who are those people that are acting as the bridge to do that? In other words, if we keep buying into a system that says we have to do things in a particular way, and that is what we continue to do, then we are just creating the same patterns that have been created again and again and again forever, that says this is the system, it works. I may not be happy doing what I am doing. I may not be doing my life's work, and yet I'm doing it because it's the only way to survive. So not only are we conforming and staying within a system that is not balanced, but we are also creating that same path for the future generations. Most of us who've come in very awake, ready to serve, ready to bring in the new energies of the new frequencies, have chosen to step out of all kinds of systems, whether they be systems of conventional marriages or relationships, whether they are systems of conforming to how to be in the world, whether or not we are choosing to have standard jobs or doing, regular things, let's say, or whether it's participating in the money structure as it stands. Therefore, what I see is we are taking on what I would call a spiritual boycott of the financial system. And unfortunately, most of us have been doing it unconsciously. It was a soul decision. We came in and we are just struggling with how do we make it? How do we make it in spite of this desire to manifest on one hand, and this soul picture of us unfolding as we are without needing the financial system to support us. So what I'm bringing forth are a couple of things. So let's look at the system for a moment in terms of where we go as humans. And this is really tricky for those of us who are in this place, because we have the 3D world saying to us, you need to conform, you need to get a job. If you get your, bachelor's degree, which really doesn't mean much anymore, your master's degree or your PhD, then, you know, this is what you're going to do and this is how much you can make, etc. And it goes on from there. And then we have those who are in the spiritual realms, you know, the metaphysical realms, who say, well, if you simply visualize it, or if all your energies are completely aligned, then all will be well, and therefore, you know, you should be able to manifest this. There's something off about you. You're not clear enough. You're not enlightened enough to bring forth that which you need. Those people who say that often haven't struggled with the financials, or perhaps they have been able to find a way to make it work. But most likely they haven't found a way to make it work by clearing their own patterns. And I say this just with all reverence to all who are making it, so I don't mean it in any disrespectful way. What I'm saying is that that system or that formula doesn't work for all beings. No formula does. So what's hard for those of us who are walking this fine line, we are getting it from both sides, from the 3D everyday side that says you're not good enough, you're not doing something right, go get a job, shame, shame, shame. And then we are getting it from the other side, which is do more inner work, do more meditation, you know, do more you know, enlightenment, you know, journey work so that you can get there, whatever there is, right? And where is there? There is here. We are here. This is where we are now. So this video is really to help you accept where you are now, to help support you as you are, recognizing from one soul, one enlightening soul, not there, not completely achieved anything, to another saying, I get it, I see it, and I see the patterning that is around that. In this picture, as we unfold to who we are really creating whole new patterns. I know that doesn't pay the bills, but just let's bear with this for a moment. We are creating new patterns by, let's say, taking on this spiritual boycott of saying, I don't want to be part of this system. For example, if we all turn off our television, then there is no need for television anymore, right? Is it a collective consciousness to suddenly have an issue with money? Should we get back on that bandwagon, say from the, you know, prosperous 80s and 90s, where so many people were asleep and there was so much consumerism out there? Is that what we want? Or perhaps all the collapsing of the financial system is saying enough of the system. What do we think the Occupy Wall Street was all about, or what is still unfolding? It may not have the momentum to keep the energies moving, but it certainly has the essence of truth. It may not have the people who know how to organize pulling it together. It may not have the forces that it may need to make this happen, but at the same time, again, we are moving into a place of living more in alignment with these higher purposes. These purposes of being where all humanity, wherever we stand, whatever our color, whatever our sexual orientation, whatever our financial abilities are, we are divine, awake, beautiful beings who are living in the light of God consciousness, of love consciousness. In this picture of us creating new patterns, we can start to accept where we are and start to learn how to trust that it is unfolding as it should be. That doesn't mean that we completely denounce any system. We could, but we don't have to. It simply means that we can hold space for where we are. Years ago, when I was looking at the picture of money, what I really saw was money doesn't matter. And that it used to matter much more significantly in terms of the 3D element. So perhaps, for example, we would trade our cattle, and we'd trade that for another livestock, or maybe some other substance that we needed, some wood to build our homes. And then it got a little burdensome or a little bit tricky to specifically take your cattle to get the wood. And so we created a system in which, you know, coins and other smaller pieces and such would be exchanged. From there, we went to this place of checks and credit cards, right? And so again, it became lighter. The essence, started to lighten up, to lift and not be quite so dense. And now we have things like PayPal and electronic transfers, where it's simply just these numbers that don't really exist in paper form. In fact, so many people don't even use physical money anymore. So as we are seeing the energy of the density of money itself, the actual, things we use for commodity is lightening, is shifting, and it's done it in a relatively short time. As time continues to so-called speed up, that essence is going to lift even more so. And as it lifts into these higher realms, then we have that recognition. As our consciousness lifts to these higher realms, we suddenly become aligned with this love consciousness that is available for all. Thus, money, or what we used to consider money, currency, energy, the current of this form, becomes so light and so available because our love consciousness, our awareness, has risen to that place. So collectively we are doing it. Individually we are walking the path. When we create intentions and forms within us, patterns of a new that we were born with, creating a whole new way of being in the world, we create that not just for ourselves, but for the collective, for our soul groups, for all. And when we clear patterns that don't serve, now what I mean by that is clearing patterns that are attached to this idea of money, or attached to fear around money, or attached to, oh my gosh, I have to survive. When we create patterns that are opening us up and shift patterns that are keeping us bound to old, again, we are healing the world. We are healing ourselves. We are healing our family dynamics around whatever the issue is, and we are therefore healing the collective and therefore the planet. In this time, we are really moving into who we are. And by creating truth within us through the hardships, through the obstacles, through the need to want to conform so we can feel part of on a human level, and the need to stay so in our truth, we are finding that balance, that perfect alchemy between heaven and earth within our physical bodies. So in this next phase of our awakening, as we move past the 2012 shift, as we move past the solstice and into the new, into the 2013 energies and all they bring, what I offer you is to start to be with who you are, as you are, in spite of any issues around anything, whether it be health, whether it be relationships, whether it be money. If money is specifically your issue, hold this part of you with integrity, with light, with knowing there is nothing wrong with you at all. You are absolutely perfect, that your part is important. It may mean that your money will come later. It may mean it won't come, or it may mean who cares, right? And of course that's easy for me to say in these higher states, right? And yet what I see is we are shifting. If we chose to incarnate and not deal with this system as it is, be happy to know that this system is crumbling and you've been part of that system, and I thank you for that. Be happy to know that we are moving into a way of being that is going to be so much more in alignment, that the piece of the financial who has what is simply going to be a game we look back on and go, that was interesting. Can you believe the grief that it caused us? So trust. Continue to stay open. But more important, continue to be true to you, to stay in your heart, to be in integrity regardless of what's spinning around you. And with that, all is truly well, and I gratefully acknowledge this time with you.